Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. The conversation still revolves around the 2023 general elections. Today, we focus on the presidential election. My guest is the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Mr. Dumebi Kachiko. Welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
I must say that a couple of months ago when you declared to run for president, you were quite fired up and ready, to run, and considering the state of the nation at the time. But I must say as well that a couple of months in, a lot has changed. And it's looking like it's even gotten worse and making it even more difficult for the next president of the country. And if I may add, making the selection process for the voters even tedious now because they look into details of the candidate as well. So are you still interested in this job as much as you were a couple of months ago?
That's a funny or interesting question. Every day, I'm more determined to run this race. I'm running a race because I have no choice other than to run this race. We all see what's going on in our country at this point. So it's either I check out of the country or I stay here and do the hard work that needs to be done in this country. So that's what I'm doing. I'm very fired up. Never been more fired up. Never been more determined in my life. This is a race I have to run.
Very well then. So, this conversation has been divided into two. We'll talk about politics and then governance. Let's talk more about politics first. Do you think that you've chosen the right vice presidential candidate for this race?
Absolutely. In choosing Ahmed Buhari, when Dr. Mani said he wanted to be focused on my campaign and so that it doesn't affect his job, I needed to get another fine gentleman who could adequately represent the party, represent me, and represent Nigerians. So, someone who's as passionate about Nigeria as I am, someone who loves Nigeria. When I heard his story, when I saw how he triumphed over adversity, when I saw that in spite of all he's been through as a Nigerian, where Nigeria failed him, he made a success and is still determined to serve the country that's really didn't do much for him. It's a story that struck a chord with me. It's what I am about, passionate about Nigeria. People have choices, but decided to make Nigeria better for everyone. And I fell in love with him after hearing his story and seeing that he was determined that no matter what, I will make Nigeria work for the next person, even though Nigeria didn't work for me. I believe I chose the very best candidate. We're looking at a Nigeria that's different, putting forward a team that is futuristic, that gives Nigeria a different perspective. And he brings that to the table. A lot of people said to me, how can you bring someone whose name has Buhari in it? I found it very funny, that Nigerians don't want to hear about Buhari. And I said, guess what? 3 years ago, most people believe that Nigerians didn't want to hear Buhari. Buhari won a second term. You must understand that people don't perceive politics like that. There are going to be a few naysayers. People on social media will crack jokes and, Buhari and whatever and every single thing. But I dare say that where one Buhari has failed, this Buhari will make good. I chose a very good candidate.
For some Nigerians, the choice of your run rate was based on the need to balance religion, ethnicity, and as well try to get the northern votes. You take that into consideration as well?
Absolutely not. I come from a party where we are gender neutral, religion neutral, where we don't care about those kind of considerations. I don't care for any of those considerations. If one was playing the political card, one will say where the votes are, northwest of Nigeria, right? So go for northwest of Nigeria. That's not a consideration. My primary consideration is what I've told you. I needed someone who could articulate, who could espouse, who had shared the same vision and had the same passion for Project Nigeria like I have.
Since you declared to run and since you emerged as the candidate of the ADC, how popular do you think you've become?
I will say I am better known. I will say that running on the platform of a party like ADC, which is the third largest party in Nigeria, obviously threw me up there in the limelight. So for especially in the political season, I will say that our primaries were televised across the country, and a lot of people now know the ADC better and now know me better.
Would you say that you have the support and acceptance of your people?
Again, in the ADC, we don't see those things that Nigerians see. So I am from Delta State. I am Delta Igbo. My parents, I am from Onitshubo in Anyocha North local government. I run for office as a Nigerian. I have never espoused or promoted where I come from, because we believe that these are the things that have destroyed us as a people, as Nigerians, and that's why we say a lot of things like, is it turn of this, of Northwest, Northeast, South, Southeast, and stuff like that. We believe that Nigerians should be Nigerians. We are one country, one indivisible country. So we refuse to speak to those issues or any issue that will divide us as a people. Our party is very, very clear on that.
But when you talk about the detribalization of your party, it's understandable. However, the concern would be whether or not you can win an election in your home state. Yes, you're from Delta State, the Igbo-speaking part of Delta State, and that's why I said the Southeast.
Yeah.
So you have this contention of going up against someone from the Southeast, Peter Obi, and then from the PDP you have someone like Okowa from Delta State as well. So the question now would be, if all three of you put together in this race, who would the people from the Southeast and possibly Delta State, I don't want to generalize this to the entire South, vote for? Do you think you have an edge?
So like I said again, I am a Nigerian, running as a Nigerian. I've lived most of my life in Abuja here, and I come from Onitshubo in Delta State. Who the people will vote for in an election come next year, I believe that my party is in pole position to take the votes of the people.
You know, my concern, just a second, my concern is not party.
Yeah.
You and I agree.
Yeah.
But the conversation in the public space ahead of the 2023 general elections will be beyond party. It's more about the personality involved.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking about your popularity and acceptance from your home state.
Correct, yes. And from my home state, I said Delta State, if we have to dive deep into what you look at those kind of enclaves, I believe I'm a very popular person in my home state. Okowa is not in the race. Okowa is the vice presidential candidate of Atiku. I don't believe that in my home state that if that's their consideration that they're looking at, they have a presidential candidate from their state and they're looking at an Atiku. So, but I don't think that we are as a party will look at that in terms of popularity and in terms of what we have to offer, in terms of what I as an individual will bring to the table and what Nigerians will see. Trust me on this. I don't think that there's anything that is different like night and day. So
when parties talk about their possible success at the polls, they look at certain states or regions where they believe they can win. And because it's impossible to a great extent for any party to win in all the regions of the country. And while you talk about your personality and your home state, what region do you think that the ADC holds sway?
Okay, so tell you what, right? As a party right now in the north of Nigeria, we have very, very strong party structures. Even in Delta State, we have strong party structures. In the southeast, where Anambra State, where the party chairman comes from, we have strong structures. In the southwest of Nigeria, we have strong structures. But this program, I know you're a keen watcher of politics, and we are in a very, very fluid situation politically in Nigeria. When I said this race, I said something to my people and to Nigerians. I said very clearly that Nigerians are approaching this political season where they will face the stark reality of understanding that Nigeria has failed. When at the time I declared, there are a lot of people who were looking at the better known parties like PDP, APC. I will travel in the airport, I see people wearing their hats, And you would think that with all that's going on in Nigeria, that nobody will dare wear an APC hat. Well, I've seen people doing that. And some of my people were dismayed. I said, don't worry. Watch as Nigeria unravels. Watch what happens. We're in July. A week ago, a few days ago, members of the Presidential Brigade of Guards were killed 30 minutes from here. A few weeks ago, Kuje, 30 minutes from here again, a medium security facility was attacked. As we speak, the dollar to naira above 710. In the last few weeks, as naira collapsed, millions out of work. We see Nigeria unraveling. We see people losing their jobs. We see lives being destroyed, lifestyles being destroyed, middle class being further eroded. A very fluid situation. Those who approach politics from an emotive standpoint, those who said initially that it's the turn of this or the turn of that, are asking themselves critical questions now. How did we get here? How did Nigerians get to this point? Guess what? We're just in July. Watch and see what happens August, September, October. If anyone thinks it's going to get better, as it gets worse, people will ask themselves the critical questions. How did we get here?
I think it makes sense that I even started this conversation by asking you if you're still interested in this job, because you're really now some indices that are really dangerous. Now, let me ask you this question. So you're up against really highly experienced politicians. Vice President Atiku has run for office a number of times, probably 3 times. You have Tinubu, who's been governor, who's regarded as a kingmaker. You have people who have structures. You have Peter Obi, who's gaining rapid popularity as well. And I'm curious to find out what's fueling your confidence that in 2023, Nigerians would rather vote for you and the ADC.
Again, just like I said, because in 2023, Nigerians will realize that they are about to lose their country, and that they will say to themselves, never again will we go back to our past. Never again will we look at success based on those who held political offices. Nigerians realize that a woman, a housewife, who is managing 5 children with an income of 30,000 naira is a better manager of resources than those we currently have in government. Nigerians realize the danger they've been put because of this parochial way of looking at governance, of government, of society. And Nigerians will know that they've done this for too long. This is what we call the Nigerian syndrome, the affinity of captives to their captors. They will realize that we've come to a tipping point. And we see that. So the people I see following my party, people I see following me, if you ask them a question, if you ask, why are they following me? They can reel out and say, this is what he stands for, this is what his party stands for. For a lot of other people's emotions, ask, why are they following P2B? Why are they following this? You will not see. Where if you were to do this poll, to watch and see, ask people, they will tell you, like, they cannot really say, other people are following, there's this movement, follow this. Or I'm following this person because I know someone who knows someone who knows someone. But the people who follow us, they follow me, they follow my party, because what do we espouse? One indivisible Nigeria of shared prosperity, a Nigeria where everyone deserves to live in peace and security. A Nigeria where we protect our borders, a Nigeria where the child of the rich and the child of the poor will enjoy the same facilities.
In one of your interviews, you said that the 2023 general elections will not be about capacity and lies, neither will it be about vote buying. But if you look at the Osun State and Ekiti State elections, you'll find that vote buying is still a challenge in this country. So what solution would you propose to vote buying, considering that it would seem that the conversation of vote buying is not still getting to the people at a certain level, the lowest level? on the need not to sell their votes. What's your proposed solution to vote buying?
It's very simple. So let me explain to you what typically happens in any election cycle. I've been part of election cycles, and typically what happens is this. Immediately after the primaries, we get straight into the campaign season, and less than 2-3 months, elections are held. Nigerians don't even have a chance to begin to understand who are the candidates to even be able to process them. So typically, they go with the parties that they know, that the media projects all the time, that they've seen their billboards. For the first time, we have about 8 months plus before the elections for Nigerians to begin to process all the issues that they need to process. Right? That's one. I was in Ekiti State a few days before the Ekiti elections. The crowd that received me there, I was surprised at the popularity, at people knowing my name, chanting my name. But at the same time, seeing the hopelessness in their faces, knowing that some of these people are probably not eating for a day, 2 or 3 days. I knew that if these people were offered money, they would go with the money, and that's exactly what happened. So like you said, vote buying is an issue. But if the media, civil society, parties, candidates like me, we have 8 months to educate these people. We have 8 months to let the people know that they will come and pay for your votes. But don't feel beholden to these people. If anybody's trying to pay for your votes, it's probably your money. Take your money, vote in the right direction. Nobody's going to come to you and give you rights to vote. Nobody's going to come to you and give you wrapper to vote. So ensuring that those people understand what the issues are, they will process these issues on election day. They'll come out determined to vote.
So does this change take away your skepticism about voter apathy?
No, voter apathy exists, but as Nigeria unravels, we know that people will say, you know what, never again. We cannot be in this situation anymore. So that's why I said, when I made this speech, I said that it will be about capability and not about vote buying or lying to the masses. I was in Lebanon a little over a week ago, right? And I went there because that's a failed society. I came to Nigeria. And what happened with them? Same issue in Nigeria. The people had this apathy. They watched their society being stolen from them. A lot of them didn't care. They were divided along religious lines. People said, as long as I'm okay, forget government. As long as I'm okay, forget government. Then the society started failing. They didn't care about the masses, didn't care about people. As long as I'm okay, as long as I can leave the country, forget government. They woke up one day and realized that their country was gone. You know what the government did? When the government could not pay its debts anymore, you know what they did? Went one day, took the monies of all their citizens, all the money in the bank. Government confiscated it, and if you have $4 million, you can only get about $150 a day. That's what the government did. Those people regret so much when they had the opportunity to speak, to run for office. They kept on saying, oh, politics for cartels, politics for this. That's their biggest regrets today. 2 years ago, I was in Sri Lanka, and I remember saying to my host that what I see here won't last. It will bottom out. These people that you neglect today, someday very soon, the society will tank. My hosts remember my words now. Anywhere society has failed, the same indices are present. Anyone who thinks Nigeria is going to get better under this government or as we approach general elections is totally deluded. Anyone who thinks that the economy is going to get better under Emefiele is totally deluded. Anyone who thinks security will improve, even if they brought British generals under a President Buhari, is totally delusional. The only way we can save our nation is when Nigerians come together and join a rescue mission, when professionals, when the very best way, when everyone comes together and says, never again can we continue along this path, down this path. When we all are determined to be part of this process, that's the only way we can rescue our nation. But you know what? If we choose to be indifferent, desensitized, don't care, have this apathy, we have only one option. Our nation is headed only in one direction. Anytime you see people, hear me loud and clear. Anytime you see people, you hear people talk about the candidates you mentioned here today, know that we do indeed have a problem in this country.
Your point about the candidates that I've mentioned here being a problem. Some say that there's some sort of breath of fresh air in Peter Obi.
In what way? Peter Obi was governor. If Peter Obi worked, people who complain about Abuja or other states failing will have all been in Anambra State. I hear him talk about industries every day. I would love to see those industries. Anambra is the home of IPOP, the home of the failure of the Southeast. I was watching a video from Nnamdi Kanu the other day where he was talking about the failure of Peter Obi as a governor. It says to me that Nigerians, because we just don't want to be logical about what we are dealing with, our failures, we still want to wrap ourselves around these people, right? So that is why we continue to mention these names. But tell you what, a 14-year-old in the US, he processes political issues based on logic. The logic someone says to you, I am president. If I am president, that I will industrialize Nigeria. You were governor for how many years? How did you industrialize your state? It's a very simple question. It's a logical question. Does that take from Peter Obi being a fine gentleman? I don't really know him. But we're talking about what he says he will do and what he did when he had the opportunity to do it. A state is a miniature model of a country. You agree with me, not so? So we have to be logical. It's not about emotions. 2023 is make or mar, is do or die for Nigeria. We can't afford to be deceived. Remember 7 years ago, we watched. The APC came. The same thing, like you're seeing what's happening now. And I watched people who were saying, Buhari, 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 the only man, Buhari, Buhari, Buhari. And I just watched and I was marveled. I'm like, a man we knew to be a dictator? Asiwaju now robes him in a tuxedo. And he's now smiling for the cameras. And he now cries, a crying general. And then we say, oh, even churches, like what churches are doing today, in churches they were saying, APC, Buhari, the man, a general, the only man for the job. We made that mistake. Less than a year into office, we all realized that a dictator is always a dictator. We saw that most Nigerians make calls and they make WhatsApp calls because they're afraid of people listening to their calls or they're being arrested. We saw what happened in NSAS to those poor youths. We saw that we lost all our freedoms. And we're about to make the same mistake again. Tell you what, you know what? I say this. I am not desperate to be president of Nigeria, but I'm desperate to change Nigeria.
You know, the youth population seems to be awake now and aware. I'd like to find out from you, as a young person yourself, how in touch you are with the youth population.
The youth population were awake 7 years ago and they chased Jonathan out of office. Let's not make this mistake. History is history for us to see and examine history. Anyone who thinks the upsurge we have in voters right now, in voters registration, is something new, is just kidding.
It isn't?
It happened then also. Go check the numbers. It actually happened.
But
we had an upsurge and Jonathan's government realized that they were in trouble. They saw what was going on. The same thing happening today happened then. And they kicked Jonathan out of office. The people went with passion. The people did not reason. If anybody were to reason, they will understand that what's different between Peter Obi, like you mentioned his name, who was the vice presidential candidate to Atiku in the last election, and the Atiku he's running against. Because I would like to see what he says to Atiku, or what he's going to say about Atiku and the party that he was part of and that on whose platform he was a candidate, what this difference is. But if you were to ask me, absolutely nothing.
Do you care less about the social media population of the youths? in this country?
No, absolutely not. But I also understand I own a media organization that's mostly online. I understand that more than most candidates, I will say, because that's where my business is thriving there. And I understand how it works. I understand the social media phenomenon. I also understand that social media is a flash in the pan. As a candidate, my strategic is for strategic reasons. I'll rather be the popular candidate on social media the last 2 months of the election, rather than the person who's popular 2, 3 months and is no longer popular. And we've seen that, and that's why we always have in social media, we have what we call fads. So I understand that strategy very well. It's what is part of my business. It's what I do for a living.
Is that why you're not as engaging
That
on social media right now?
it is deliberate, because we understand that.
Let's talk about the ADC now specifically, because I think there are concerns as to whether or not you would be forming an alliance with any other party. I say this because political experts say that any serious opposition now, apart from the APC and the PDP, would be considering an alliance, just like the APC was formed in 2015 from alliances to oust the PDP. Would the ADC be considering an alliance as well?
You mentioned who political strategists, you said?
Yes.
Okay, I'll say this, right? That's who I am also. And that's who I am for over 2 decades. And I will tell you this, only those who don't understand history, who don't understand politics, will say stuff like that. Understand this very clearly. APC didn't oust Jonathan from office because you have the likes of Saraki and co move from PDP to APC. The people who moved, how many people voted in the elections? The power in politics, the power in every election resides in the people. In Nigeria, we, the media, who I'm part of, for too long we've deceived the people, we let the people feel like the power resides in the politicians, the political parties. That's not true. So it's not about those alliances. Those alliances do nothing, absolutely nothing. So you ask yourself, oh, take the two better known parties, the APC and PEP, take my party as I said, the third party, and say my party forms an alliance with Labour, NMPP, all the other parties, form those parties. What is the collective strength of a party and what is the collective strength of Nigerians, the 40, 50 million voters who could potentially vote? It's about the people. And until we start crafting our message to the people, we won't see that change. We will let these people believe that they don't have any real power.
Let's talk about something that you recently reacted to. It's the impeachment notice of the National Assembly. It sort of aligns with what you said about the president needing to resign. But then it would seem that you're dissatisfied with the proposal of the National Assembly to send an impeachment notice to the president. Seems to be a conflict there.
Absolutely no conflict, and I'll explain that to you. It's very simple. Why now? Is it because Abuja is under attack, under siege? Terry, you and I know that this government has failed long ago. You and I also know that the National Assembly, leadership especially, were complicit in the failure of government. The framers of our constitution understood that when the executive fails, that the legislature has the powers to correct any failure, remove a non-performing executive. What did they do? Now, leave the APC. Look at the PDP as the minority party. What did they do all this time? What were they waiting for?
What could they have done? That's the minority.
That
will only have their say.
Tell you what. But what they are doing now is, as they're still doing as a minority party, why didn't they do this 7 years, 6 years, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, last year, early this year? Do you know how many thousands have died? Do you know how many 10,000 who have been displaced? Do you know how many 10,000 who are in IDP camp? Do you know how many thousands who have left Nigeria? Do you know the state of our economy? Why now? I said to them, and I have long called for, being the only candidate you will see, calling for this president to resign or be impeached. I have long said this, but tell you what, right? As a minority party, they could have tabled articles of impeachment, even if they are shut down. But symbolically, it's clear that they are there defending the people who they are representing there. They didn't do this. Tell you what, the leadership of the National Assembly is complicit because they failed to do anything. They rubber stamped everything the executive has done. If you want to impeach the president, you want to show Nigerians that you're serious, start by impeaching the leadership of the National Assembly, who have been complicit. They gave this president 6 weeks. Think about that. In that 6 weeks, what's going to happen? A man who's not performed for 7 years is going to perform in 6 weeks?
If you become president in 2023, what would you do differently to address the security situation?
It's very simple. Even if you came from sleep, I will tell you. The first thing we need to do now, not tomorrow when I become president. We are under personnel, our military is under personnel. We need to raise a 100,000 man army to join them, drawn from the police and civil defense, because they are already trained in carrying weapons. They need specialized training for the next 1 month or 2. And we need to have these people join the war effort across the country. We need to take the war to these people everywhere. We need to start securing our borders. We need to bring on technology to complement the effort. If you across our country, our military, they operate blind. This country, President Jonathan operated 100 billion naira annual budgets for internal security. President Buhari, in the last 7 years, has operated the same budget. He has not added 1 naira. Price of diesel has gone up, exchange rate has gone up, and he has not implemented 60-70% of that budget in that time, yet our situation has gotten worse. Our military are underfunded. He needs to start ensuring that the military planners send their budget directly to him. Because the truth, I will tell you this about President Buhari. When he actually gets their proposals, he approves typically within 2 to 3 days. He's very good with that. You know where the problem lies? The army has to send their budgets to the Ministry of Defense. The Minister of Defense sits on it for about 4, 5, 6 weeks. He will now trim it down by about 50-60-70% as he likes. No reasons given to these people, the people who are in technical command, who are running the operations. No reasons given them. They trim it down and send it to the president. So what happens to the shortfall? So let me tell you how it affects the operations in the field. Kaduna Abuja route, that's real route. If they need to do 10, 12 sorties, aerial patrols, they can only do 2. Terrorists now have 6 hours, 8 hours window in which to operate, because they know that they will watch how these people patrol and they know that they can pass. That's why when people ask the question like, how are these people to move within Nigeria, like without them being seen? This is why they are able to do that. People, our military, they have light-skinned patrol vehicles, but they might not have diesel or petrol for those vehicles. We spent a lot of money, billions, tens of billions last year buying weapons, armaments. A lot of maintenance, a lot of the operations. So this is what we cannot afford to wait till I become president. This is what must be done now. Complement the war effort with more personnel, ensure that they get more money. Immediately you do that and take the war to these people, and let every Nigerian in the theater of war, in the area of war, let them know that they can arm themselves to complement the war effort. We are in a war situation. Everybody who can be armed complements the war effort to take the war to these people. We drive out these people, but understand that these people are not all foreigners. And Nigerians like you and I, who've had no job for years, who are now seeing banditry as profitable. So when we take this war to these people, immediately our farmlands are free for agriculture. Immediately our cities are free and people are able to go back to their domains and small businesses can start again. We start addressing the economy critically. We have a CBN governor who is entirely clueless, with the Minister of Finance entirely clueless, committee entirely clueless. Nigeria is the only country at this time in the world where they are increasing taxes and increasing duties, wiping out the middle class. No, that's what we need. You want business to thrive, you need to give them every incentive for the business to thrive. So when the business is thriving, you can then start taking taxes from them. The 40 million people who are not working, imagine if those people were working. Imagine if each of those 40 million people are paying 2,000 naira towards taxes as income tax every month. Do you know where Nigeria will be? The job of every government is to provide employment so that its citizenry can contribute towards its coffers. That's why governments do anything. When you invest in your citizenry, you get paid back through the payment of taxes. They don't understand this. So all they are doing is that there's a shortfall from oil. They forward-sold our oil several years ago. The people who they forward-sold the oil, they took money from them some years ago. The people are coming to collect the oil now. So they have no money that can come to government from the oil. So what are they doing? Pay taxes, pay taxes, pay taxes, pay taxes, increase duties, increase duties. That's all this government is now doing. As you do that, what are you doing? Inflation, recession. That's what's going on.
Well, what would you do differently? Because as you said, there is a debt that needs to be cleared.
So that's what I'm trying to say here. What do you do? The essence of every business is for you to become profitable. So you have to invest, first of all, so you can get money, right? So if I borrow money from a bank, the only way I can make money is if my business is in operation. That's how I can pay back the bank, pay my bank loans, right? So Nigerian government needs to invest and give a loan to these people that by ensuring that they have an enabling environment on which they can operate. When they start operating, when the middle class starts thriving, they can start paying taxes. You have 40 million people who are in deficit who are pulling us down because we are providing key infrastructure and these people are not contributing towards paying back. But if, for example, you are able to ensure these people get back to work, what will I do in the area of agriculture? We keep on talking about having a monofocal economy and we'll see we're going to have a multifocal economy. What is agriculture to you, Terry? It presents the poverty of our parents, of our forefathers. What's agriculture to the man in America? Freedom, wealth. They speak of agripreneurship, we speak of subsistence farming. What will I do? I will ensure that immediately anyone studying agriculture in any university for the next 15 years studies on full scholarship. I will ensure that every senatorial district has agro-processing parks so that our farmers have guaranteed off-takers. If you, as a 21-year-old, you are cultivating 1 hectare of land, you know that whatever you are producing there, that there's someone in an agro-processing park close to you whose business is based off of the raw materials you are producing. You are guaranteed of money.
But I would like to get a reaction to something that the Minister of Works said with regard to the standard of living dropping in the country and then the inflation rate increasing to about 17.7%. While I ask you what you would do to drop the inflation rate in the country, let me ask you this. He did say that it's a worldwide phenomenon, that it's not peculiar to Nigeria.
That's the excuse of a failed government. I watched President Biden speaking yesterday, and when they said to him that, about inflation and recession, and he said, job numbers are increasing. People are being employed. Yes, we have a global recession, we have a global inflation. But are other countries feeling it like we're feeling? Do they have 40 million people unemployed? Absolutely not. Are they tackling it the same way? Absolutely not. They hide under the guise of global recession and inflation to continue to fail. Listen, we know we have supply chain gaps. So other nations knew that they were going to have supply chain gaps, seeing what happened with COVID. So it's their planning. I remember writing to this government, doing videos, saying to them, this is what Africa, Nigeria must do now, because we know with COVID that we'll have major food shortage in the world in the next couple of years. Don't you think COVID will last two months or 3 months? COVID is here to stay with us for at least 3-4 years. They were planning like COVID was here for 6 months. I said, no. This is what you must do. If the world movement has reduced, it means that use of oil and gas reduces, which is your major export. But you know that the world will have a shortage where food is concerned, and Nigeria can be the food basket of the world. What must you do? Get back into the farms. Well, can you get back into the farms when there are terrorists in the farms? You cannot get back in the farms. So what must you do? In this law in movement, when people are at home, go all out against these terrorists. Go all out against them. Use opportunity, go out against them. So you make our farms safe, so our people can go back to the farms. And what you must now do, you must now start pre-ordering processing equipment. Government, they were taking money and pretending that they were giving money to some critical sectors. I said, take this money and give to people in this sector. Start opening agro-processing parks across this country. Do you understand? So that when people are producing the farms, people are processing, we can start exporting. If we're exporting food to the world, where the world has food shortage today, whatever we're feeling, the shocks we're feeling with the failed NMPC, we won't feel the shocks today. What are we exporting? Yahoo. That's one of our major exports now. What are we importing? Terrorism. What's our major product in Nigeria? Kidnapping. We let businesses die.
The World Bank says that Nigerians' earnings from the rise in oil price has been wiped away by subsidy, and it's worsening the naira. And there are concerns as to whether or not we should still be paying subsidy. Would you be able to wipe out subsidy?
Terry, that's a white-collar crime being against Nigerian people. Terry, for the last decade, 2 decades, what people are paying for fuel in Airborne is not what we're paying here in Abuja or in Lagos. We know this. We close our eyes to this. What people are paying in parts of the far north is not what we're paying here in Lagos. So where there is the subsidy? Subsidy is a white-collar crime going on that used to steal billions. President Buhari had the goodwill to take out that subsidy immediately, to stop it, because it does not really exist. Tell you what, look at the fuel queue you have now, right? They increased the price of fuel, right, a few days ago. But it's wiped up because as long as the dollar keeps on going up, right, you're having to import that fuel. So our situation is going to be fluid, and that price ought to keep on going up. But they keep on trying to wage this price. And we have a CBN governor, whatever he says seems to affect the economy. So immediately we understand that we should let market forces play here. Immediately we understand that if market forces play, that when you reduce the role of government in this, that you could reduce the corruption inherent in that system. Everyone will get to understand what the real subsidy is. Whatever you save, Terry, what should you do with that money? Social infrastructure, transportation, everything I've said that government needs to start investing in. Take that money, put it there. So where you have increase, that's it. Why do you think you have the tube system in the UK? Why do you think you have mass transit system in developed countries? Jonathan wanted to do this. President Jonathan wanted to do this, and you saw all those buses. You were here in Abuja, and I know you saw all those buses back then. Where are those buses today? All the state, they bought all the mass transit. Where are they today? We can't run away from this. But it only takes a determined government, a new crop of leadership, who have the willpower, who care for their citizenry, who are willing to do right by their people to get this done.
Our time's almost up, but let's touch on education. It is a very serious matter, as has been on strike for 5 months now. And the president has given 2 weeks to the minister's concerns to resolve the matter. But the concern for many is that this matter, as it stands, may only be temporarily resolved. And if there is no permanent solution, ASU may go on strike again if they call off the strike anytime soon. What do you think is a solution to the frequent strikes by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, not to mention the other unions as well?
I want to look into the camera and answer this question. My dear Nigerians, as a secondary school student in the University of Benin, Demonstration Secondary School in Benin, the students in the University of Benin would call us out to join their strikes, their demonstrations, their riots, be it in support of ASU, or be it against SAP, or against the then Abacha and the IBB government. What we saw then as schools were closed was that our lecturers sent their kids overseas to school. Many of my friends then, who were children of lecturers, all went overseas to school. That's when this notion, this lust for foreign education started, and we said, we watch these people send their kids to school whilst they were on strike. The government people started sending their kids to school as both parties dug in. The poor suffered. Those who could not afford to send their kids to foreign schools suffered. The same thing is happening today. You see, these lecturers, I'm not saying their demands are not germane, but let's understand this. In Nigeria, most of the universities will have more private universities than public universities. We also understand that children of the poor are most of those who are in public universities. Who do you think mans or lectures in the private universities? The same ASU is on strike in public universities. Understand this. The same ASU who is on strike in the universities where the poor people go to. There are same people teaching in private schools where the rich kids go to. It's a rigged system against the poor people. We see the same thing in the medical sector, where public health facilities are failing, where doctors will go on strike, but private facilities are thriving, where the rich go to. How will I address this? My first act as your president is this. My first interface with the next assembly, beyond inaugurating that assembly, will be a bill I call Nigerian Patriot Act. It says that if you are a public servant, a civil servant, if you are the director of a company whose license derives from government, such as banking, media, solid mineral, oil and gas, what have you, it says that you and your family can only use public hospitals. It says that you and your family must use public schools. It says you cannot have a borehole or a generator in your house. It says that if you travel within Nigeria, that you must travel by road. You only travel by air if it's an emergency. It says that only about 4 to 6 people in Nigeria are entitled to have police security. And that if you must have police security, a competent court of law must give that order. It also says that if you flout any of the provisions of this act, it's not about paying a fine, you will go to jail.
What
will happen, Nigerians, is this. When our rich people, when those in government, when they realize that they are affected by the failures in our society, within 1 year, our society will start working again. If their kids have to go to these schools, they will make those schools work.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I recall that 2 bills, one to prevent public office holders from sending their children out of Nigeria to school, failed in the House of Representatives. I also recall that the other one to prevent public officers from seeking medical assistance abroad also failed.
Was there a bill sent by the president?
Absolutely not. It's
Good.
a member
Thank you.
bill.
So a president that has the goodwill of the people sends a bill like this, gets the people behind him to let them know why this bill affects all Nigerians and why this bill should work. That bill will scale through. Tell you what, my very good friend who was behind that bill, I felt his pain. I supported him all the way. I had this bill out in public domain about 3 years ago to let Nigerians make their input in this bill to say, when I get there, this will scale through. We must do this. Terry, we cannot run away from this. You see, these poor people we have neglected. They are the people who are doing banditry today, who are doing kidnapping, who are trading human parts today.
Our time is almost up, but let me ask you this. One of the requirements from any political presidential candidate or whoever becomes president of this country would be integrity and must be able to tackle corruption. That means that person must be corruption-free. And I recall that when you had your interview with my colleague, you had said you had denied the allegations of tax fraud. And then I think about a week later, the U.S. government obtained a default judgment confiscating your assets. And I think you reacted to that saying that it was politically motivated. But I think it's okay for you. I think it's a good time for you to confirm or deny if your assets have been eventually confiscated.
So let me tell you that, and I said that, I think it's many media organizations, and let me answer that very clearly. I said that as a resident of the US, that I was assessed an additional tax of almost $10 million. I said in the intervening years, that tax, I've reduced that tax to almost $2 million. And it was based upon the advice of my lawyers that strategic reasons that you let the government enter default judgment. When they enter default judgment, are you collectible? It means at that point you are able, after judgment, to still negotiate the taxes with government. This, what they reported, was the first negotiated settlement. Understand that. You negotiate your taxes just like in Nigeria here. It's only an illiterate person, just like what they were trying to do to hoodwink people. That's what they were trying to do, to hoodwink people, right? Only the uneducated will have fallen for that. So what happened with that, and is going on now, is that I am having to negotiate my taxes with the US government. But tell you what, right? I was assessed taxes of almost $10 million in a foreign clime. Look at your other presidential candidates. They are in tax evasion havens. I am not in their category. I'm not like...
No, I just wanted you to confirm or deny if your assets have been confiscated.
They were not confiscated. And as I said to
till
you...
this moment.
So, yes, till this moment.
All right.
Yes, do you understand? So I said to you, what happens is that when the judgment entered, you now go into negotiation. It's the same thing happens in Nigeria also.
Serap has asked that all presidential candidates declare their assets. When do you intend to declare your assets?
Tell you what, I feel like Serap continues to just climb the wrong mountain, back the wrong hill. I have no issues declaring my assets. I've always been in private sector, I've never been in government, so I have no issues declaring, but I wish that they would utilize their energy, their focus to ensuring that Nigerians are not hoodwinked going to the next election, just like on the issues we've talked about, issues of vote buying, issues of ensuring that we're able to look deeply into the antecedents of those who are running for office, see how they've performed for those who are in public office, address the issues that affect Nigerians, look at the issue of INEC saying, for example, at the end of this month, no more...
but Sarah took INEC to court.
Voter registration. Tell you what, go look into it. It's when I came out as a candidate, strongly demanding that INEC extend this, that INEC reacted by extending, and I'm still saying the same thing today. INEC, as an IT professional, someone in that business, I'm saying INEC has no reason not to have people register right up to 3 weeks to the elections. INEC has no reason whatsoever. No reason. They are being absolutely mischievous. And I'm saying this today, INEC must extend this. In not doing this, INEC, you disenfranchise Nigerians. You must also understand that you are Nigerians. The failure we have in our society today, you feel it. You go home to your families who are part of our larger society. If you don't ensure that we have a credible process where most Nigerians can vote, you do yourself a disservice.
But INEC says that it needs time to process certain things. For example, INEC says that it needs time to print these voter cards. It also needs time to reconcile possible double registrations.
So tell you this, right? The same INEC tells you that there are tens of millions of voters cards that have not been collected. We allow ourselves to be hoodwinked all the time. If you were to walk into some banks today and you want to get your card, your debit card, there are some banks who can give you a debit card immediately you finish, you go into the bank. Why does INEC allow people come here to do registration and tell you have to go to 30 kilometers, 30 kilometers away to collect your voter's card? It's a system that doesn't work. They know it does not work. We continue to do this because they want to disenfranchise people. They say they need to clean up their system. You are a young, smart individual. You want to save a file on your laptop. It immediately tells you file name already exists. Keep both of them or delete. It's the same thing that INEC goes through. INEC does not need the time INEC says that they need.
Does this draw to question your confidence in INEC going into 2023?
An INEC that was unable to give us credible elections in Osun and Ekiti. What do you think will happen when they have to have elections in about 30 states? What do you think will happen?
Well, those elections were adjudged free and fair.
Terry,
From the reports that we received.
Terry, did you honestly just say that to me?
From the reports,
that Ekiti election that you and I saw videos of people being induced to vote. Same thing happened in Osun. We keep quiet about Osun because the party other than APC won. It did not make Osun election free and fair.
Election observers
the election
rated these elections.
They said what they said. Let me tell you what they said. They said that they were better, but they did not meet the litmus test of free and fair elections. That's what they said. And let me ask you a question. Does it mean that we continue on the path of mediocrity to see that we can never have an election that's perfect? Is that who we are as a people?
Is that your concern
Nigerians
for the 2023 general elections?
Nigerians are the best professionals everywhere else in the world but Nigeria. We are the best professionals. We give the very best. Why isn't our country a country of mediocrity? Why do we accept something that is less than perfect in Nigeria? No, that's not good enough. Because if we make these statements, INEC feels that we are okay with that.
So you are not confident of INEC's ability to conduct a credible election in 2023?
I am saying that the people have it within them to ensure that INEC does this if the people stand on their rights. Let's not legitimize this by saying...
So what's your advice? What's your advice to INEC to improve the election in 2023?
I'm saying to INEC,
recall that we have an electoral act that's been amended and commended.
I'm saying... In what way? Yes, it's an improvement on what we had. Is it the best? Absolutely not. But I'm saying to INEC, I understand that we are all Nigerians. We're all Nigerians. For our country to work, democracy, this is the basis of democracy, a functioning democracy. Credible elections. Give us credible elections. They have it within them. If they want to do it, they can do it.
Mr. Dumebi Kachiku, it's been a wonderful conversation, I must say. I thank you very much for coming to speak with us on Political Paradigm.
Thank you very much, Terry.
And I wish you very well in your presidential bid.
Thank you very much, Terry.
Well, that's Political Paradigm. Thank you for your time. Remember to catch this and other episodes on YouTube. Just search Political Paradigm or go to channelstv.com and find this and more. Once again, I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.